Today I'm going to teach you an amazing and almost magical tool called the Content Fill tool. And this is going to be able to we're going to select an object and we're going to do content fill, and it's going to be able to take different elements of the background to create and replace whatever we select. So let's go ahead and do a sample first. I'm going to go ahead and unlock my layer. Let me just grab the polygon lasso tool and let's just do, doesn't have to be super accurate. The more accurate you are, the better it'll do the content fill. But you could just kind of loosely click around our woman here. Go ahead and complete our shape. Oops, I forgot a little bit of her shoe. Let's just add that to the selection. So here's how you access the tool. If you have Adobe Photoshop 6.0 or higher, you'll be able to have access to this tool. If you have 6.0 or earlier, a very older version of Photoshop, you might not see this option available. So just keep that in mind when I do this video. So to access your content fill after you have your selection, you're going to go to Edit, Fill. And it's going to give you some options. Let's go ahead and make sure when it says Contents, make sure Content Aware is highlighted. And go ahead and make sure you have these settings. Just have normal blending mode. Color adaptation can be selected and just click OK. It's going to automatically fill just like magic. It's processing. Boom, just like that. So our selection, it went ahead and adapted things outside and tried to create its own version of what it thinks would be behind the woman. So it's quite a magical tool. But you can see how it's not perfect. And this is when we have to kind of zoom in and kind of correct it a little bit better. So we can go in and use our trusty clone tool. This is why we also learn traditional ways to do this manually, so we can kind of correct this. This tool isn't going to replace your clone tool. So let's go ahead and grab our clone tool, and let's make our brush a little bit bigger, and we're just going to kind of manually correct it. We could maybe even do another content fill, but let's just see if we can kind of correct it a little bit. And you can see kind of where the leg was of the woman. If you didn't see the original photo and you're looking at the photo for the first time, you'd probably think that was natural. So you could probably leave that alone. But let me see if I can't shake it up a little bit, maybe grab something over here, do a 50% opacity, just kind of cover, just to make it more of a smoother, realistic texture. Just like that. And so I'd probably go back in, do 100% opacity. Of course, I'm being picky here, but since this is an intermediate course, it's time to be picky. So let's get a smaller brush and let's clean that up. That's too blurry compared to over here. So I'm going to get 100% opacity, select that, and go ahead and see if I can't do this. You can also do content aware again, a second time, to patch up areas of the first time. So let's grab a lasso tool. Let's do this darker area that doesn't seem to match. Let's see what we could do. Let's go to Edit, Fill, and do Content Aware again. Click OK. And so it's going to grab everything out here to create something on the inside. So that kind of covered up that dark patch. So that's kind of the trick to properly using Content Aware, is do it on several different patches until you get something you like. And there we go. We just totally removed that woman from the picture, probably less than 3 minutes. So let's continue to use this tool. It doesn't work perfect for images that are complex. So you notice kind of these stairs going across. We're going to try to remove this woman. But for the content aware to work, it needs to have an accurate amount of background to work with to be able to create it on the inside using an algorithm. But since there's not a lot of sample background here, the stairs, I see this being a little bit of a challenge for Photoshop to do. But let's see what happens. Let's go ahead and cut her out the best that we can. We want to leave as much of the original background as possible. We don't want to have too much space between her and the selection. So just doing a really quick polygon lasso tool and selecting our woman here. So let's do our Edit, Fill, Content Aware, and just click OK. Let's see what happens. Let's see how good Photoshop is with the Content Aware tool. So you can kind of see you can't use it in all circumstances. So this is tough. So what I would have to do is take the clone tool here and manually cover it up here. But it gives us a good start. There's a lot less that we have to clone and fill. So a lot of times when I cut someone out, I'll start with the content aware tool, and then I'll manually go back in with the clone tool and kind of grab samples and then put it over here. So there's a second way to use the content aware tool, and that's to use it in a brush form. So if you go over to your toolbar, you're going to notice this spot healing brush tool. Let's go ahead and go down to let's go ahead and stay on spot healing brush tool. And when it goes down to type, make sure content aware is selected. So you have a couple of options here. It's the one on the far left. And let's get a nice feathered brush. So size, hardness, let's go a little softer. And we can paint the content aware. Instead of just selecting it, we can use a paintbrush. So let me do an example. Let me do a smaller brush. I'm going to paint this V out of here. So let me zoom in a little bit. And let's see what happens when we do this. Make the brush smaller. We don't, as little as possible to erase would be the best. So a nice skinny brush. Let's go over our V, make sure I got it all. And all I have to do is release my mouse and it's going to automatically do the content aware. So how awesome is that? So now let's do the 4, just brushing, gone, brushing. So the brush, I like to use that for really small selections. So getting rid of typography and letters off of certain things, I love to do the brush. And look at that. It does such a wonderful job. It does feel like magic. I know this tool is referred to as magic by a lot of people. And it sure feels like that. Because before I would have to clone this out manually by taking nearby samples, but trying to match the grain would be almost impossible. So sometimes I do it twice. If I feel like the pattern didn't do it perfectly, I'll just keep doing it until I like the pattern. But yeah, manually doing this with the clone tool would take about 30-40 minutes. And this took me a few seconds, and look, you can't even tell that it was removed. And now I can add my own letters on there. And voila!